Series of our lecture. This is about discussion of Philippine contemporary media, but we will have to focus on films, not really on TV and not really on radio, but this is actually a series of these discussions. So the first thing that we have to focus on is on films. So, the goal of this lecture is about revisiting the status of Philippine cinema from contemporary times to the present, and we also have to look into the different genres of Philippine cinema according to three keywords: production, distribution, and quality. And finally, we will discuss the recurring themes of Filipino films that reflect contemporary issues in our society. And I want you to focus on the previous experience that we had, and that is actually the first quarter storm, or also known as the martial law period. So we have to look into that Philippine cinema timeline and look at some historical figures and narratives in our society that have shaped the themes of these films that we have to discuss today. Okay, so let's move forward. So, first things first, we have to know what mass media is. So, mass media or media itself is a way to broadcast information through prints or broadcasts, disseminate information to inform people for entertainment and yeah, it's everything that we have to know. It's a form of communication. Is it really linear? In a way, it is linear because feedback is delayed usually, or we can always send our feedback, but a little bit like, it takes a couple of times before our feedback could be given to the producers of these broadcast media. So it's basically split into two: broadcast and print. Broadcast refers to the use of radio waves or the radio system, and that is the use of TV and radio and equipments, definitely, or broadcast equipments. So if you're familiar with the word ECE, Electronics and Communications Engineering, they are our partners in production and monitoring of these broadcast media. And print is all or everything about printing press. Yeah, so that's why they are called press, because it's about printing press. The mechanism to print mass media products such as newspapers, journals, books, magazines, comics, tabloids, and etc. In the onset of internet production, that was 1970s, that started in the United States, and nowadays mass media has converged with internet. So internet is in a way a form to get communications, a form to get information, but it could also be a channel for mass media broadcast. So now we have words like e-media, e-TV, YouTube channels, YouTube streaming sites, podcast, e-radio, as same with digital prints or digital publications such as e-news, e-magazines, e-books, e-pub, and etc. Everything that is digital, but they also have e-versions such as, newspapers and all the like stuff. And this is a collage of, media entities. We call them media entities or companies, and we have here Manila Bulletin as a broadsheet, Philippine Daily Inquirer, the GMA Network, ABS-CBN radio systems, and we also have PTV, or also known as the state-owned mass media or state-owned media company of the Philippines. And we have here my former radio station, 90.3 Energy FM station, and here, Wish 107.5. This is a hit radio station. It's like a radio station on the bus, and they have a YouTube channel where they invite artists to perform and promote their new songs or albums. Next, so this is actually a timeline of Philippine broadcast media or Philippine media, and I want you to focus on 1950s as named as the golden era of Philippine cinema, and the first newspaper was produced in 1911. When do we say that we have a timeline like this? When we have like historical evidence or artifacts that talks about, a massive or mass produced a leaflet, for example, we don't really have a historical fact that would actually show that we had been mass producing mediums or prints prehistorical times, I mean pre-Hispanic times. But definitely we have language and we have writing systems, but we don't have historical evidence to start it a little bit earlier than 1850s. So during the Hispanic period, we have here the first newspaper. So we start with 1811 timeline because we don't have yet artifacts, because we have written our text in organic materials and apparently they were burnt or destroyed by the colonizers. Okay, so 1946, the first television was used or introduced in the Philippines. That was 2 years after the United States of America's mass production. And in here, 2011 is named as the social media era. Okay, so first things first, because we have to analyze film, we have what we call film studies or film critique. How do we critique or study film? So first is we have to look at the visual elements and cinematic techniques used in the film. While film is visual in nature, it has also narratives and storytelling. So usually some novels or books are produced first like Harry Potter, and then eventually years after a film adaptation is made. So that's what we call film adaptation. Next, if you'd like to focus on other elements of film, so you could actually see here the various elements of film such as storytelling, and the main focus is visual and on auditory effects because they trigger our sensory experience. And although books could show or help us to imagine more or use our imagination better or by creating mental pictures, but looking at something with effects is, well, I would say some people would prefer films rather than reading, but others would also prefer books than film in experiencing the beauty of the narrative or storytelling. It's probably by choice. Okay, next, when you analyze written text and analyze films, you also have to look at the dialogue or the narrative. So the script is actually part of the things that you can critique in film studies. Next, we also have character analysis in film studies, but this is not our focus. But I just kept all of these details here, but you may skip this one. And yeah, visual elements, narrative structure, and you can write your analysis in paper as a form of critique or a review of the film, or we could also say film review, but I would say film review would focus or could focus on theme, the stars involved, the characters, or character dynamics, but it's all up to you. There are various elements of the film that you can critique. So, here is our focus, the golden age of Philippine cinema. The word golden refers to time or a time reference. So, yeah. So, here I just said golden age of Philippine cinema is a time reference or period when film production was thriving, characterized by high viewership. So there are laments of directors that say that viewership of film has declined over the years, and they had been going into online streaming sites such as Netflix or Amazon Prime. So not a lot of people are now going to movie houses to watch a film. But I think that has been a divergence or a trend in viewership. So it's all upon your preference. As long as you pay money, as long as you can generate money out of production, I think that's just more important, regardless of the space where you watch these films. So the golden age of Philippine cinema is divided into three: 1930s, 1940s, 1960s, 70s, and 80s, and 2010 or 2000, year 2000. So we have here classic films during the first golden age and social political themes during martial law during 1960s, 70s, and 80s, where Nora Honor, as one of our national artists for film, has produced Himala, and it's a very classic Filipino film, along with Manila sa Kuko ng Liwanag, or yeah, I forgot those, but you can take a look at those films so that you would have a glimpse of contemporary social history of the Philippines. And during the year 2000, we have the internet, so you have new streaming platforms and storytelling revival. So now, even you guys could actually make films, like short films, or create narrative and just post it on your social media platforms. Well, that is very empowering, especially if you are interested in photography or filmmaking. here. So, classification of Philippine cinema, there are only two classifications of Philippine cinema. Definitely, that's the mainstream film and indie film. So, when we say mainstream film, we are talking about ABS, CBN, cinema, these big production, film production houses. They have wider audience reach. They are commercial in nature, they are profit driven and well distributed with sufficient funding. Whereas indie films are focused on social political themes about contemporary Philippine society, low culture, as they say, reflective of the marginalized sector or group. So somehow, indie films is a space for filmmakers, independent, amateur, and even veterans to promote or give voices and spaces for the marginalized group. They talk about crime in the Philippines, drug war, the plight of OFWs and the plight of ordinary Filipino citizens, and they are in a way less budgeted as compared to mainstream film. But the quality is there. Definitely some of the works of Brillante Mendoza, like Daewoo, starring Nora Honor, has won a major award in the Cannes Festival. So these are our references just in case you want to watch more about the golden age of the Philippine cinema. Please log into this, and definitely another one is this vlog. This blog. You can find it in the internet. So yeah, keep on reading. So I hope you learned something from this short lecture about Philippine cinema. All right, take care always.